Won't you use them for news and entertainment? Sounds pretty good to me. OGM News FM for news and entertainment. Sounds pretty good to me. For news and entertainment. Sounds pretty good to me.
TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. It's a long week and a lot happening throughout the week. But thank God it's Friday all over again. See, there's a lot continuing to happen. All I know is that it's cold blue in America. Well, before we go on blasting here, I have to come in early so I can tell you, if you are joining us, please try and subscribe on YouTube and follow us on the Facebook and all your social media platform, because this is that show where we dissect some of the things that happen during the day or during the week in American politics.
Won't you use them for news and entertainment? Sounds pretty good to me. OGM News FM for news and entertainment. Sounds pretty good to me. For news and entertainment. Sounds pretty good to me. Won't you use them for news and entertainment? Sounds pretty good to me. Won't you use them for news and entertainment? Sounds pretty good to me. OGM News FM for news and entertainment. Sounds pretty good to me. For news and entertainment. Sounds pretty good to me.
Oh well, it's another day, It's Friday, and thank God it's Friday. And right now, we're about to uh, go into some of the things that happened today. Jasmine Crockett, it is Rep. Jasmine Crockett, the rep from Texas, that actually have a video posted today on the TikTok. Very interesting the conversation because almost all of uh, the Democratic House representatives, almost all of the top guns in the House are in this particular video actually having conversation about some of the issues that are currently arising in the House that you have to really know or actually be updated on. But first, before I go into this video, I have to encourage you to go to ogmnews.com. That is our website where you can actually get a news coverage on the day-to-day and play-by-play of what is going on in American politics. And not just that, if you are watching us on Facebook, don't forget to subscribe and like in whichever place you're watching from. I think we have about 3 different pages and channels where you can watch us from right now, and on the YouTube as well. Make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell. And in the future, we want to turn this to a big forum where we will have people come on and be able to chat with us and have conversation about whatever is happening in politics. But finally, most importantly, stop by on the website and check it out, ogmnews.com, because these days we are trying everything we can as independent press just to be able to put the real news out there, because it seems that the mainstream media are letting us down. The mainstream media have chosen to polish the ring, kiss the ring, and suck up to the king. So most of the news that you were supposed to be hearing, they're not going to get on it unless it's becoming viral on the social media. And we are doing our best to make sure that these news, this important information, become viral on the social media so that the mainstream media will not be able to look away from it. So now, what you're going to do now is to help make sure that the independent press continue to grow. We have a couple made us touch there, made us touch and Reality America, and a couple of independent press out there. Even Don Lemon, Joy Reid, who was fired from the MSNBC, and all these people who left the mainstream media now happen to find out that the best way to have voice is to be to go solo. So they are joining us, in the game to make sure that we put the news out there when the mainstream media are still afraid of doing so. Don't let me forget Roland Martins as well, who have actually abandoned the mainstream media a long time ago to start his own channel, more or less. So there are many of us out there. So, but OGM News is trying everything they can just to be able to make sure that we put out the most important aspect of the news that is concerning out there. And when the mainstream media are still dragging their feet, dilly-dallying, we put it out because we can confirm that these things are actually authentic. And we find out that most often when we put out the news, they eventually catch up on it and start reporting it, almost when it is too late. So, but we try to put it out there when it's impactful, when we believe that people need to hear it and make their decisions when it is necessary. If the mainstream media are doing their job the way they're supposed to be doing it, we're not supposed to find ourselves in this mess that we are in today. We're not supposed to find ourselves in this mess. And the mess is getting uglier every day. It's getting uglier. So the video I'm going to start with today, having to do with the video shared by the representative from Texas, Jasmine Crockett, who shared a video on TikTok She must have shared this video also on other social media. But I really want to talk about this because it's very important. So I'll start off right away without wasting time.
Hey y'all, so I'm jumping on really quickly. First of all, it's too cold in this building. So yes, excuse me. I know I look tacky, but this is my jacket because I'm about to head out for a second to do votes. But I wanted to make sure that I told y'all what just happened. So I've been in oversight forever today, but now we are in our markup and it is in judiciary. And let me tell y'all what they just voted for. I want y'all to take a guess. Okay, y'all probably not gonna guess it because it don't make sense. But if you think of the most ridiculous thing that they could do, okay, I know that that's really hard too because everything that they do is quite ridiculous. But literally, they just voted. They being the other ones, not us, because we were all on the right side of history. They just voted to give Trump the ability, legally, to give him the ability to deport U.S. citizens. That is what they voted for. A bunch of elected U.S. representatives. That is how they voted. Am I telling a lie, Eric, or no?
especially you. I'm sorry, my mic has been off and I've been ranting. Unbelievable. So, especially you, I should use my feedback so that I can hear when I'm out of place. All right. So, when you give the president the ultimate power to do whatever he likes without the check and balances of the Congress, it's dangerous. It's not just dangerous for the leaves or the lefties, it's also dangerous for you, especially those of you who voted for this president. If you want the president to succeed, because this is my logic, this is the way I look at things. This is my logic, and I think it's a reasonable logic. If you want this president to succeed, if you want to get the best out of this president, you want the Congress to be able to do their job. Trust me, you do want the Congress to be able to do their job. Because if the Congress is not providing the check and balances necessary for this presidency, the presidency failed. And America failed. So do not look at it as if the Congress is policing the president or the Congress is trying to reduce the hand or the power of the president. No, don't look at it that way. It's a selfish view. Look at it this way, that if you really want this president to succeed, if you really want this president to do better, at the end of this tenure, that he leave this presidency with a good legacy, if you want all that, you want the Congress to do their job. Okay, so when you hear today that the amendment, because it's an amendment that was introduced by, I think Jayapal, one of the Democrats in the House, that introduced this so that they can reduce the power of the presidency when it comes to deporting or detaining Americans. Because that's exactly what this president says he's going to do. What am I even saying? He's not just saying he's going to do it. They're already doing it. Because a few days ago, we reported on OGM News here that 2 years old American child was deported. And the other child was also deported who has a cancer. And without the hope of actually getting his treatment. You see, this is already happening. It's not just a saying, it's not just a promise, it's already happening. So when the president says that he's going to target Americans and deport them, they're making it happen already. So when the Democrats introduced these amendments, it's just to be able to check and balance the power of the executive. You want that. You need that. You really ought to support that to happen. That is what I keep saying. Do not look at it as if the leaves are trying to, don't make it about, this is not football teams, okay? This is not a Dallas Cowboy versus the Eagles, okay? This is real. This is your life at stake. So you need the Congress to do its job of check and balance if you want the president to succeed. It's that simple. It's that simple. I want the president to succeed. I want him to be better. Because if he is better, everybody is good. If he failed, the country failed. So all the system that has been put in place for a president to be successful, let it work. But if you keep clamoring for the idea to suppress the Congress, to suppress the court system so that the president can have ultimate power, is dangerous for you. For you, not the leaves, not the immigrants, for you, Americans. It's dangerous. Because now, all these unnecessary use of abuse of power is affecting even people who voted for this president. So is that what you plan for? Is that the idea that you vote someone who is going to rain in on you and punish you as a citizen? I don't think so. And that is why we need to look at these from a different perspective. The check and balances is not supposed to be something that reduces the hand of the president or police the president around. No, it's supposed to make the president better. It is that simple.
No, I got my salad here. Mouthful. No, I'm stunned.
I'm not.
I
But
thought-
I'm glad that you. Oh, okay.
Well,
Eric been
no,
here
we said-
longer than me, but like.
So what we said was, we even said, you know what? Many of us will not offer any more amendments tonight. We won't vote for the overall bill. But if you agree to this, we'll drop any other amendments. We'll take the win that this would be in the bill, that you would agree U.S.
Yeah.
citizens can't be deported. They voted to allow Donald Trump to deport U.S. citizens. And they did it during the week that we learned that a 4-year-old little girl fighting cancer, a U.S. citizen, has been deported, separated from her U.S. citizen father and her cancer treatment. So, yeah, it's kind of shocking.
Well, he's shocked. Y'all, listen now. I came in with nothing but fools. So he been here longer, so maybe he still has a little bit of shock in his life, but I don't personally. Because the fact is, we used to live in a world in which where we saw the news about that baby that got deported, the baby with cancer, because supposedly he the man that's all about the children with cancer, right? Like, that's why he made sure one of his guests was at the State of the Union was a child with cancer. So surely, even though they're cutting cancer funding, but like, it is a U.S. citizen. Like, there honestly isn't even this real thing of like deporting a U.S. citizen. As far as I'm concerned, you randomly kidnapping folk and you throwing them out of the country against their civil rights, against their constitutional rights. And frankly, how would they feel if some other country decided that they were going to just start throwing people randomly in our country? Like, that is absolutely insane.
So look, why some of you will be hailing this idea, will be celebrating it, okay, because it's targeting others, not you, it's targeting others. Why you are celebrating it, I just wanted to know that it is dangerous for you as well. Because guess what? When you give someone such a power to do and undo, to do whatever he likes, it's very simple. That same man that you were supporting will turn around against you when there is no other persons to attack. That is what hate does. Hate spread. It never dies until you quench it. So if you give him all the ultimate power to deport and detain citizens, just because it's not you, it's them, it's the others, guess what? Eventually, when there's no other to attack with that power, when there's no other to deport with that power, he's going to turn against you. That is why it is dangerous. It is dangerous, especially for those of you who supported him. Because eventually, if there is no other to attack with this type of power, and then you have a voice of dissent, which sooner or later is going to happen. It's going to happen. Sooner or later, it's going to happen. That he's going to do something that you wouldn't like, and you raise your voice, then that same power will be used against you. So what's the point? What's the point? What's the point? You can hate the leaves all you want. You can hate the Democrats all you want. But look, when it comes to actually checking the power of the presidency or the executive, it is just normal. It is for the benefit of everybody. For you and me. Everybody. Everybody. And like, again, I'm going to say this. Do not look at it from the perspective of the Congress trying to control the presidency. That's not how it works. Check and balance is meant to be in place to help the presidency to succeed. To help the presidency to succeed. So if you sincerely want President Trump to succeed, if you sincerely want this particular president to have a good presidency, you do want the Congress to use the power of check and balance. A useless Congress is not going to help this presidency. A yes, sir Congress is not going to help this presidency. The way the GOP Congress is acting now is like a sacrifice. So what they are doing, really, what they are doing is to help this presidency to its downfall. And once he's in the pit, guess what they're going to do? They back off. And now they'll step on him. That's what sycophants do. They praise you, they hail you until you fall into the pit. And when you end up in that pit and you can't come out, they step on you. So do not think that, just because you want the GOP Congress to stoke it to the leaves in the House, just because you hate the leaves so much, you want the president to have these unnecessary, unlimited power. One, he's going to use it against you sooner or later. Then two, it's not even good for the country. Then three, it's not good for the presidency himself. You want him to succeed. And if he's going to succeed, he needs the power of the Congress to do their job. So when you see these GOP Congress voting against a bill or amendment, to check the power of the presidency to detain Americans or to deport Americans, when they vote against something like that, it's completely outrageous. Of course, the bill or the amendment is not supposed to be brought up in the first place. Because guess what? It's already in the Constitution. But just a reminder, they have to bring it up again. That is the situation we live in now. In an extraordinary situation, atmosphere, that the Congress has to remind the presidency of what is written clearly in the Constitution.
So yes, all I gotta say is y'all need to get these fools out of here. But Deborah is so much nicer about how she says things. She wasn't them real. She's one of them real good, nice lawyers. Okay, listen, I could only imagine how Deborah was in the courtroom, honey. But Deborah also sits on judiciary. So tell us, what are your thoughts? How do you explain that this is what they decided to do?
They're mean, they're heartless, and they're cruel. And they do not care about anybody except themselves. But if you're going to be able to deport U.S. citizens, then they're coming for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So again, like all those people that are saying that they have some sort of buyer's remorse about their votes because they never thought that this was going to impact them and that kind of stuff or whatever. Here's the reality. When we go out and make votes, instead of going out and deciding that you're going to vote for the person that is going to be quote unquote perfect, what you need to be doing is looking for somebody that at least has some common decency. Because ultimately, when it comes down to it, I can tell you, if it was somebody else that was in office other than him as the president of the United States, maybe we would have had a different result. But they are so afraid. They are afraid to do what is right. Again, I keep trying to tell people, this isn't about partisanship. This is about right versus wrong. Now listen, y'all know this fighter. She stays on the front lines, at all times. But no, tell us, because actually this was your amendment.
It was my amendment.
So this is the author of the amendment. And we all thought it was common sense, but as we are learning, common sense ain't so common.
Yeah. No, look, here's the thing. This amendment was not introduced because it's theoretical. No. It is actually happening. Yeah. That U.S. citizens are being deported, not just one, not just two, multiple U.S. citizens are being detained and deported by ICE. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. I introduced into the record the document, the policy document, the law that ICE cannot detain and deport U.S. citizens. Yeah. That's actually the law. Yeah. So it's illegal what they're doing. Yeah. And Ted Lieu, our colleague, said, it's batshit crazy that you got to introduce this amendment. He said that on the record. And I said, you know what? It is batshit crazy. But the reason I have to do this
is because they don't follow the law.
Is because they're not following the law. And then I asked the Republicans on the other side, you were elected by U.S. citizens, by constituents. Right. And you are now saying, if you vote no on this amendment, you are saying that you're not going to stand up for the constituents, the U.S. citizens
that you work for,
that sent you here. Right. And it was just stunning.
The ones that pay you.
So at this point, I'm going to just pause on that, because right now, I don't even think they think it's working for you. Yeah, because you give them so much accolades, you praise them so much that they're not even thinking about you anymore. They're not responsible for you anymore. They're not accountable to you anymore. Is that what you really want? No, seriously, forget about the others. Do you really want powerful leaders who are not accountable to you? And then what's the purpose of actually abandoning the king or moving away from British? You guys should have just stayed under the colonialism of British if that's what you want. If you really want to take a power away from you people, you the people, because the power is supposed to be for the people. If you're going to just yield your power to some men so that they can have ultimate control and forget about you completely and not care about you anymore, that you should have just stayed under the colonialism of Britain. There's no need for coming out of that. It only means that George Washington and his men and all the fight is just a waste. It's a waste. It's of no use. After centuries later, you now go back and give a power unlimitedly, unchecked, uncontrollable power to one man. And let me remind you again, if you think he's using it against the others now and you are celebrating it, guess what? It's only a matter of time before he turns around and uses it against you. Then what? At that point in time, what?
Yo, chick.
Now,
Right.
I did notice that some of them
I don't work for
just
USC, I
didn't
just study
come
the magic.
to the vote because they didn't want to be
Oh yeah,
on the
some
record. They didn't want to vote.
Some of them skipped out on the vote.
They
y'all.
skipped out on the vote. So you should check the record. And if you have a Republican that represents you wherever you are, you should call them up and say, do you support Trump's ability to use ICE illegally to detain and deport U.S. citizens? Because if you don't, you should be speaking out right now. And if you do, we are in a whole hell of a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm already at the point that we are in a whole hell of a lot of trouble, to be perfectly honest. And the other thing that Pramila is too nice to say is when you looked across that aisle, for those that sit on judiciary that decided to take this vote, the reason that they can sit there and take this vote and not even blink is because so many of them sit in privilege. When I look across that aisle, I don't know. I think we have one person that may have a little bit of melanin. For the most part, they don't. And so what we know is that there's so much racial profiling that is taking place. There are certain people that maybe because they have an accent, you want to just say, oh, well, that can't be a U.S. citizen. That is not true. There are certain people, because of the complexion that they have, that is who is being targeted. So you know what? They are not concerned because they know the quote unquote types of U.S. citizens that are going to be directly impacted by this. Now, I got this legend, and I don't know if you want to say anything. He over here trying to eat.
Okay, before we go into that, see, this is the truth here. Okay, forget about the idea that he's targeting others, and you were celebrating it, because eventually, like I said earlier, it's coming back for you. Because for anybody who have a mindset like that, and then when you give that person ultimate power, what that translates to is that eventually, when there is no other person to attack, when there is no enemy to pick, he would turn around against his own people. I have seen these many times without numbers from tyrants around the world. I have practically lived in countries where tyrants are president. When they attack, imprison, and maim, unalive, different kind of enemies that they have, guess what they start doing when there's no longer an enemy to attack? They turn around and turn against their own people. That is the kind of unlimited power that you are giving one man. Because eventually, if he's going to deport all the citizens that doesn't look white in this country, eventually he will complete that task one day. He will complete that task one day. And everybody here will be exactly white, if that's what you want. But I'm telling you now, it doesn't matter what color you carry or what blue eyes or white eyes or silver eyes ball you carry, eventually he's going to turn around against you if there's no other to attack. That's what tyrants do. And I'm sorry using the language tyrants, because you made him that way. You made him that way. You refuse to check him. You refuse to criticize him. You refuse to actually, rain on him and let him be accountable to you. So you created the monster. That's what you do, basically. And that is the same thing that has happened in the past with all these tyrants. If you're talking about Fidel Castro in Cuba, that's exactly what happened. Initially, people were celebrating Cuba Fidel Castro. People were celebrating him. They want him so bad. They were happy. They were jubilating when he took over the government. But because the accolade is just uncontrollable, it's just too much, he can't handle it, the power becomes ultimate for him. And then before you know it, he turned it against his own people when there is no more enemy to attack. That is what you are cooking for yourself. You are actually creating a monster to go after you eventually. And this is why this has to be taken very seriously, not just by the lefties, not just by the libs, but by every American who is concerned about the rule of law. If you want to throw it away, well, go ahead, but you're going to pay for it, because the rule of law is the only reason why a common man on the street is not being oppressed out of the system. Yes, we are being oppressed in the system now, but after all, you are still in the system. You are still living. But if you want to cease breathing, then throw away that rule of law. Because that's exactly what the GOP Congress is doing now. And that's exactly what you are doing when you are cheering on it.
But what you got to say for the people, Mr. Nadler? Okay, yeah, he say no.
I'm ready.
Okay. New York in the building.
We in New York understand, most of us, constitutional law. We understand constitutional rights, and that's why we only have 5 Republicans.
New York, that's 5 too many, y'all. It's 5 too many, New York.
A few of whom we'll probably defeat, maybe all of them next year.
And to our fearless leader. I feel like I've been with him my whole congressional career. That's because I have, actually. What do you have to say?
Well, first of all, hello to all the friends of Jasmine Crockett out there. She's doing a fantastic job for everybody. Look, the first 2 votes have got to be read together. The first one, we said, okay, nobody should be deported from the country without due process. They refused.
Where is due process found?
Due process is found in the 5th Amendment to the Constitution.
Constitution, y'all.
And what does due process mean? It means, like, before they deprive you of your life, your liberty, or your property, you get to hear what the charges are against
Yes.
you. You get to put on your evidence, as
Yes.
Jasmine Crockett has done as a lawyer and as a member of Congress. And there's got to be some structure to it, so it's fair, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be a neutral fact finder,
Right.
right? Who decides? All right, that's all we're saying.
And hopefully prevents these mistakes.
So before you get sent out of the country,
Right.
there's got to be due process. There's got to be a
Right.
fair hearing,
Right.
And our colleagues refused to vote for that,
Yes.
despite the fact that the Supreme Court just said in a 9-0 decision that there's got to
Right.
be, and that includes everybody on that Supreme Court. That's pretty incredible that all 9 of them would actually say, yeah, we agree. There's got to be
Right.
due process.
And the
for-
last time I checked, the Constitution, that's supposed to be the highest law that we have in the land. That's what I
Supreme law,
thought.
You're preaching to the presidency that actually removed the Constitution from the government website. Okay? From the very first week of the inauguration, the president and his people removed the Constitution completely away from the government's website. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? If the pastor of your church throw away all the Bibles in the church, what is he going to preach with? I mean, what is he going to be teaching you? His own wisdom? That's exactly what just happened here. The Constitution is the Bible of the United States of America. It is the book that guides, against authoritarianism. It is the only book that still helps an average citizen to be able to cope within the system. So if that is thrown away, then what's next for everybody? And I keep telling you this. Stop being selfish about these ideas. Yes, you think it's the others now that is being attacked. Look, if you give him that room without question, without critiques, without him being accountable to you, eventually he will turn against you.
Supreme law of the
That's what I
land.
thought.
Not Donald
He's
Trump. Right?
constitutional
So
professor, yeah.
So the first one says, okay, we said you can't deport people without due process. The Republicans said no. The second one, Ms. Jaibal's amendment, she said, well, you can't deport or detain U.S. citizens if you're ICE, right? That's
Right.
not your job.
Right.
I thought that was a slam dunk. Okay, they're not going to vote
Right.
against. They voted against that. They
Yeah.
voted it down. You put those two together, and they seem to be indifferent if ICE is actually detaining and deporting U.S. citizens. And guess what? That's not hypothetical. That happened last week,
Yep.
where there were U.S. citizen kids who were sent outside of the country. So we're entering a brave new world here with all of their Orwellian, Kafka-esque stuff. And we're just getting started, though, because we're going to now pin them down on everything. We're going to have amendments on everything to see where they really stand
Yeah.
on the Constitution.
Yeah. So you just heard it directly from Jamie Raskin.
So it's just absurdity, really, it's absurd that they have to go that far to check the president. In reality, nobody has to remind the president of what is written clearly in the Constitution. It is the same Constitution that afforded him the presidency in the first place. It is the Constitution that enables him to be able to gain that power in the first place. So nobody has to be reminding the presidency of what is clearly written in the Constitution. That is the absurdity here. That is the crazy, crazy thing here. That the Congress has to write an amendment to remind the presidency, wait a minute, you're about to abuse the power. And yes, half or the majority in the Congress completely go against such amendments. That means they really want the president to have such power. But guess what? This is a scenario. If he has that kind of power, if eventually somebody in the future can pay him better to get rid of you from the Congress, he will primary you out. That is the kind of power you are giving him. And you do not have the right to question him anymore. He will primary you out if there is a highest bidder for your seat. I'm talking to you now, GOP congressmen and women. You think being a sycophant now is good for you, but eventually it's going to work against you. Because if there is a highest bidder for your seat in Congress, he will sell and primary you out. Have you thought about that? I'm guessing not. I guess not.
He is trying to teach these people some constitutional law, y'all. They ain't trying to listen. They act like it's only one amendment in the Constitution, the second, and they read that one wrong. Listen, if you care about this country, if you care about the Constitution, if you care about anything, then you will go and tell somebody what we have just educated you on. I got Becca Ballant. Listen, I'm trying to let her finish. But here's the deal. It is so frustrating because we could see the writing on the walls as we went out and we tried to educate people about what it was that they were up to. If they have it their way, this country would only be full of Elon Musk and Trump and they other billionaire friends and whoever is willing to work for them for little to nothing and have no health care and not be able to really afford food and not be able to afford a roof over their head, because we are working on reconciliation, meaning we are working on the budget. And so what we were saying in these amendments was you can't fund this type of activity. That's all we were saying, because it's already illegal. So you wouldn't need to keep doing like the same law over and over. But we're like, okay, maybe we just need to take your coins away. And then maybe y'all will stop, because maybe you'll be like, well, I'm not going to get no money for doing this. So this is actually about the coins, okay? So I want to clarify, because I know some of y'all may be confused, like, well, if it's already the law, why y'all talking about it? Okay, it is the money side of it. I just want to make sure I make that
Always
clear.
follow the money.
Follow the money.
Always follow the money.
This is the amazing Becca Balance
You're too kind.
from the great state of Vermont. What do you think about what's happening so far? We got a long night ahead of us, y'all.
They are willing to throw over all of our rights. They are willing to throw over the freedom and the liberty of their own people in order to worship at the feet of Donald Trump and Elon Musk. They don't care about.
You see, this is crazy because at some point, all I keep hearing from these other side is, oh, this is all lies and blah, blah, blah. Eventually, when it happens, first you call it lies, but eventually when it happens, then you keep saying, oh, it's not that bad, it's not that horrible. Eventually, when you see that it's that bad, then you go around and start saying, oh, well, that's what we voted for anyway. But this is all dangerous. That's what we are saying. And that is why, look, you need smart people who go to school to actually be ruling America. It's as simple as that. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to make some people look bad or look stupid. But you do not need anybody who do not know what they're doing to get close to the government to start parading incompetence. You need people who are really smart, who go to school. This is why you have sent your kids to school. So that, I keep hearing you tell your kids one day you're gonna be American president, be American senators. That's why you send them to school. So to stop disparaging education, stop stabbing education in the back, because that's not how things work. Yes, I appreciate plumbers, I appreciate carpenters, I appreciate everybody with handiwork. But look, some things are just meant for people who go to college. It's as simple. And governance is one of it. One of it. The ultimate governance, everybody who's involved in governance has to be educated. Educated. You do not want anybody who is telling you about a Jewish laser in the sky, coming near the government. You do not need that. That is why we have all this mess. Exactly why we have all these mess. Incompetence all over the place.
About their constituents. They don't care about working people. It is about delivering more cash to people at the top. You follow the money and where it goes, and it's about kicking working people in the teeth, propping up people who don't need the advantages they already have, and meanwhile creating a police state. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
With what we just saw in committee right there. They will not promise not to spend money to detain and deport American citizens.
Yeah.
This couldn't be more clear.
This is all about doing whatever it is, allowing Donald Trump the latitude to do the things that he wants to do. This is my second markup for the day. My first was in oversight, and when I was there, the things that they were trying to do, they're trying to bust up unions. They are over there saying things like, you know what, we don't want federal workers to have the protections that they would normally have in being a federal worker. We need to make them all at will so that we can fire them whenever we want to. So essentially admitting that they know that what they did when they started firing everybody, they knew it was illegal. So now they are trying to change federal worker status so that they can do this stuff lawfully. Like, I'm telling y'all, this is absolutely insane. It is bad, bad, bad. But make sure that you don't just get on IG, listen to me. Make sure that you go and you educate somebody else, because we are in this position because of a lack of education, because we allowed ourselves to be played, or we allowed ourselves to be riled up about things that frankly We ain't never had no president that was trying to decide what kids can play on the playground. The president is supposed to do things like make sure that those kids can have food in their mouths, roofs over their heads, and food in their mouths. I think I may have already said that.
So I'm gonna just stop these now before, because I have to go to the next video before we round things off here. But this is pure and simple, okay? You do not want the president with an ultimate power that is unchecked. It is not good for him as a president. It is not good for his legacy. If he really wants to succeed, he needs his power to be checked. So that once in a while, somebody is going to be tapping him in the back and said, guess what? You're overstepping. Take a reverse course. This is how presidents in the past have been successful. And secondly here, if you think he's using this power against the others and you are pumped up, you're celebrating it, guess what? Sooner or later, he's going to turn around against you. It's not good for anybody. It's not. It's as simple as that. It's not good for your children and your children. You need the future of your children. I'm talking about when you even said, oh, you want to preserve that, because that's the language. You want to preserve your race. If you really want to preserve that race, you do not need a man with an unchecked power. Let alone, I've always considered human as one race, not two, not three. And that means you have to scrap that nonsense that you always ask people whenever they need a job in America for whatever race they come from. Because I think that's one of the reasons or how you put targets in people's back. Yes, it's supposed to be a DI, process, so that they make sure that everything is balanced, but they're not using it that way. In reality, they're using it to put a target on people's back. It's of no use. This is the only country in the world where they ask that question if you need a job. The only country in the universe where they ask you what race you are from before they give you a job. That is nonsense. And I'll go quickly to the next video here. Okay? This one, if you listen recently, you see RFK Jr. RFK Jr. is the secretary for Health Department. You see him recently make this statement. I will play this statement quickly, and I will play the response of a 4th grade kid who actually responded to it. This is how we close these today. Okay, first, the statement made by RFK Jr., the man with the worm in his brain. I'm not making that up at all. And it's not me trying to make fun of him. He said it himself, that they removed worms from his brain. So if a man has a worm in his brain, I don't expect much other than him to say things like this.
This is an individual tragedy as well. Autism destroys families. More importantly, it destroys our greatest resource, which are our children. These are children who should not be suffering like this. These are kids who, many of them were fully functional and regressed because of some environmental exposure into autism when they're 2 years old. And these are kids who will never pay taxes, they'll never hold a job, they'll never play baseball, they'll never write a poem, they'll never go out on a date. Many of them will never use a toilet unassisted. And we have to recognize we are doing this to our children.
You see, I don't even know where to respond, because this sounds completely uneducated. Completely uneducated. That view that it just sold to you is completely unintelligent. One, is not expressing the reality on ground when you see these kids in reality. I don't know how many of you have actually come across a kid with autism. There are many types of it around there, but I've seen it. I've worked with them practically. Just because he's saying it doesn't make it true. Because eventually, if they stop all the aids, because that's what they're trying to do eventually, to stop all the aids, to stop all the provision, to stop all the health care that is providing for the care of these kids, if they stop it, that is not going to make those things just wiped out. It's not going to make autism become completely erased. It's not going to make it disappear. You're still going to have all these kids uncatered for. And eventually, their situation will be worse, not better. What many of the care for autistic kids does is to make sure that these kids acclimatize and be able to cope in the society. And unlike the lies you just heard from these secretary, these kids, many of them can work regular jobs, are in regular jobs, can function regularly like normal human being because of these aids and care that they are trying to take away. So he's saying all this to claim that this doesn't really exist, that autism doesn't really exist, so that they can withdraw all the care and all the funding to take care of these kids, your kids. Yeah, you may not have autistic kids, but that is an average number of American kids. And yes, many of them do serve in the military. Are you kidding me? I don't know where he gets his record from, where he gets all these lies from. He doesn't sound like someone who is actually on the ground to witness what these kids really are, or what they do, or what their life is about. Everything he said does not sound like a human being that knows the reality on the ground with an average autistic kid. A man with a worm in his head, in his brain. Yeah, he just sounds exactly like he does have a worm yet in his brain. So that is where I'm going to leave my response. For the remainder of this show, I will play you the response of a 4th grade kid, okay, who actually responded clearly to what these secretary says. Now, the response is going viral now on social media. So I just want you to just have a feel of it. He's a 4th grader. And he's had a thing or two to say to what this man just said. So give me a minute, let me load it up. And while it's loading up, please don't forget to subscribe if you are watching us on YouTube. And if you are on the Facebook, don't forget to follow. And please always pay visit to ogmnews.com for your daily news and your news update. For example, I'm going to remind you again that we are here because the mainstream media are disappointing every one of us, letting us down, failing to report unnecessary news. They only want you to hear things that they want you to hear. Other things they put behind the bar. So, but we are here as independent press to make sure you don't miss any part of the news, especially those that are not reported in the mainstream media. So go check it out, ogmnews.com. Now, I will play this video. This is a response to to RFK Jr. Let me mix it up. They're not the same people.
Recently, the U.S. Secretary of Health, RFK Jr., made false comments about autism, like people with autism are broken, that autism is caused by vaccines, and that people with autism will never have jobs or families. But that's not true. I have autism and I'm not broken, and I hope that nobody in Princeton Public Schools believes RFK Jr.'s lies. Autism and all disabilities should be taught in the Princeton Public Schools curriculum at all grade levels because it will raise awareness, increase acceptance, and improve the quality of life for kids with disabilities. But first, here's a quote from a Changing Perspectives article called Disability Inclusion in Education. A truly inclusive environment does not value one marginalized group over another. Instead, it recognizes the unique backgrounds of all members of the community, including but not limited to cultural heritage, religion, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, gender, disability, or any other differences. Princeton Public Schools already recognizes Autism Awareness Month, but not much. There are posters in the cafeteria that say to be kind and inclusive. Students wear blue on April 2nd, but we are never taught about the spectrum of autism. Kids need to be taught more about the different kinds of autism, that autism is a natural variation in the genes that you are born with, not caused by vaccines, and about successful people with autism. The lesson should also be extended to other disabilities like ADHD, cerebral palsy, blindness, deafness, dyslexia, apraxia, and more. This is important because it will teach kids how to accept people with disabilities. Accepting someone means really understanding someone for who they are and not minding their differences. I want everyone to know that people with autism and other disabilities are not tragedies, but just different, like all people. If everyone understood more about autistic people and about other people with other disabilities, they would know more about how to treat them, what their lives are like, and that they don't need to be fixed or cured. This will help kids with disabilities have a better life. When people are aware of disabilities and are accepting them, they will have friends and less bullying. Also, the teachers might be more aware because they learned about the disabilities also. Kids and teachers should know more about disabilities so they do not believe RFK Jr. is right about autism, and they choose to treat them in a nice way that is good for the kid. By knowing more about it, kids and teachers will be nicer to the kids with disabilities. This is important to me in Princeton Public Schools because I have a disability and I noticed that disabilities were not being taught, only a few people mentioning autism. When teaching about culture, we teach many different cultures to accept them better because that's what disabilities are like, a culture of differences. Princeton Public Schools must add this to the curriculum of all grades and students so that we don't have people like RFK Jr. in the future. I want to end with the district mission statement. Our mission is to prepare all of our students to lead lives of joy and purpose as knowledgeable, creative, and compassionate citizens of a global society. Adding disabilities to kids' education will make them knowledgeable and compassionate and help kids with disabilities to lead lives of joy and purpose.
Seriously, I do not have anything to add. There are articles, there are publications, there are peer-reviewed, write-up that is based on what autism is about. You don't have to believe these. Go see for yourself. There are kids in school who have these. I've worked with them. I've seen them. Literally worked with them almost every day. And that is why it shocks me to hear. Unbelievable. It is unbelievable just to hear an adult say what RFK just said there, let alone a secretary of health department. It's unbelievable. It's so disappointing, so nerve-wracking to hear an adult say that, let alone somebody who is heading your health department. I don't know where we're going with this. I do not understand where you think you're going with this. These unnecessary, just annihilating facts and removing facts from the system completely. And then we're going to end up stigmatizing these kids, and they're going to end up facing more problem. And the system that is already in place to make sure that these kids function very well in the society, they're trying to remove it And so they lie to you through your teeth, just to be able to get rid of all these things that these kids basically need. What kind of cruelty is this? Really? Really? I mean, do you have to achieve getting all the money you want with all this cruelty? Is there any other way you can actually make more money as a person? Well, I don't get this. I don't get this. Some of you are cheering it on. I hope you get it. I hope you do. But it doesn't even look like you do. It doesn't look like you do.
Watching News FM for news and entertainment sounds pretty good to me. OGM News FM for news and entertainment sounds pretty good to me. For news and entertainment sounds pretty good to me.